In the 7th century, a specific prophecy began to drive the expansion of the Muslim world. Their armies were destined to secure 3 of the most significant cities in the ancient world. The first city, Mecca, was secured by the Prophet himself within just 10 years. The second city, Jerusalem, fell shortly after under the leadership of the second caliph, Umar. That left one final target, the capital of the Roman Empire, Constantinople. For the next 800 years, this single objective would successfully resist every attempt at conquest. A campaign that began with rapid momentum hit a stalemate that would span dozens of generations, outlasting empires and defining the limits of medieval warfare. The early Rashidun Caliphate expanded at a speed rarely seen in history, dismantling the Persian Empire and pushing the Romans back until they reached the city's land defenses. Constantinople was a fortress built onto a peninsula, protected by a defensive system that was considered an engineering impossibility to overcome. An invading army had to cross a wide, flooded moat just to reach the first of 3 massive stone walls, each taller and thicker than the last, while the remaining sides were guarded by the sea. During a failed Umayyad siege, the elderly companion Abu Ayyub al-Ansari fell ill. His final request was for his fellow soldiers to carry his body as far forward as possible under the cover of night and bury him at the foot of those impenetrable walls. Abu Ayyub remained there, a member of the Prophet's original inner circle, permanently interred within sight of the enemy's battlements. He became a physical reminder of a goal that remained just out of reach. Following the failure of land assaults, the Umayyad leadership shifted their focus to the sea, building a massive naval armada to strike the city's coastal flanks. The Romans responded by suspending a massive iron chain across the Golden Horn, the only waterway where the city's seawalls were vulnerable. Unable to enter the harbor, the fleet began a long-term blockade. As food supplies dwindled, the Romans desperately sought a weapon that could break the naval encirclement. They unleashed Greek fire, a chemical compound that could be sprayed through tubes and ignited on contact. Crucially, the substance continued to burn even on the surface of the water, incinerating the wooden ships of the Umayyad navy. The fleet was destroyed, and the ensuing loss of life and equipment forced the Muslim armies into a 40-year retreat, fundamentally weakening the Umayyad Caliphate. The defeat proved that superior numbers were irrelevant against the chemical and architectural engineering of the Romans. The subsequent Abbasid Caliphate, remembering the trauma of these naval and land defeats, never attempted another major siege against the city. Soon, the fate of Constantinople was overshadowed by a new existential threat arriving from the east. The Mongol armies moved across the map with unprecedented speed, dismantling established Muslim empires. This destruction pushed displaced nomadic tribes toward the Roman frontier in Anatolia, where leaders like Ertugrul and Osman began organizing these refugees into a hyper-militarized state. While the old empires had been burned away by the Mongols, the survivors on the frontier were building a new society designed specifically for expansion. By the 15th century, the Ottoman Empire had become a global superpower, yet it remained divided by the Roman capital that sat unconquered at its center. Sultan Bayezid and Sultan Murad both launched massive sieges, only to be turned back by the same ancient walls and harbor chain that had stopped their ancestors. The repeated failures weighed heavily on Sultan Murad, who spent his final years recounting these defeats to his young son, Mehmed. By this time, the conquest felt like a hereditary debt, an impossible failure that each sultan was expected to inherit from his father. When he took the throne at just 21 years old, Sultan Mehmed II made it clear he would not accept the stagnation of his predecessors. He turned his attention away from traditional infantry tactics and toward developing a weapon capable of shattering stone walls that had stood for 1,000 years. He commissioned the casting of the Basilica Cannon, a bronze siege engine of such massive scale that the world had no previous concept of its power. To bypass the harbor chain, Mehmed ordered thousands of men to drag his warships over a steep, forested mountain on greased logs, dropping them into the harbor behind the Roman defenses. The 800-year prophecy was fulfilled by a leader who paired overwhelming technological firepower with the audacity to move an entire navy across dry land.